A freeze frame still sits burned into my head. A paused dashcam at 3:17 a.m. Rain streaking sideways, my taillights reflected in wet asphalt, and familiar shape standing dead center in the frame. Not in front of the car. Behind it, in the dark lane I had just driven through. Same hoodie, same crooked shoulders as a friend who swore he was home 2 cities away. His head turned toward the camera at the exact millisecond I paused the video, like he knew I would stop the clip right there and stare. Before we begin this journey, a quick ask to subscribe, because some doors, once open, do not close quietly. Tell me where you are listening from and what time it is. Stories like these have a way of finding the people who need to hear them. The first story began simple, the way trouble always does. A quiet house at the end of a cul-de-sac, beige siding, 2 floors, a motion light that liked to overreact to nothing. I was new to the area, and the friend was familiar. We had grown up in the same county, drifted apart, then reconnected when I took the lease. Rent split down the middle, utilities in my name, because I had the credit score. The routine felt clean and safe. I set alarms at 6:40, 7 o'clock, and 7:09 a.m., brewed the cheap grocery store coffee, ironed shirts on Sundays, watered 2 plants on the kitchen sill at 8 p.m. every other day. The Wi-Fi password lived under a magnet on the fridge. Ordinary patterns are the best camouflage for the wrong person. Small things went crooked first. The fridge beeped because the door was opened by an inch at 1:13 a.m. on a Tuesday, even though I had latched it before bed. My toothbrush was damp at 6:47 a.m. when I had not used it yet. A cabinet I never touched stood open. A single bowl turned upside down like a photograph posed itself. The Nest app showed the living room's motion sensor tripped at 2:02 a.m., 2:33 a.m., and 3:19 a.m., each time followed by the thermostat bumping 1 degree cooler. The friend said he ran hot and liked the house chilly. It sounded harmless. That is how the bad stuff gets in, sounding harmless. By the second week, my phone started buzzing in little clusters. Missed calls at 12:11 a.m., 12:13 a.m., and 12:17 a.m., then a silent period, then a message that was not a message at all, just a period. At work, he asked what time I would be home, but not like normal friends do. Exact times planned down to minutes. I told him the usual range. He began waiting in the recliner, TV off, room dark. When I walked in, not moving until I crossed the hall and turned on a light. It looked like a prank until it didn't. I bought a $25 indoor cam for the stair landing because of the night noises. It recorded to the cloud. On a Thursday, I checked the feed during lunch and captured the first thumbnail to make my stomach ice over. 2:31 a.m., grainy grayscale. The top of the staircase where the hall light blurred into digital static, and a figure standing at the very top step with shoulders squared and chin lifted, staring into the camera lens. Same hoodie I had washed that afternoon. Same friend. The clip time stamp ran for 7 seconds. He never moved. He did not blink. The motion stopped when the camera died. The battery indicator that had read 64% the night before displayed 3% in the morning. Battery drain happens. Cameras glitch. But it is harder to explain the next thing. At 3:06 a.m. the following night, my phone vibrated against the nightstand with a single push notification from the door lock. Manual turn from the inside. No one turned the bolt from the inside unless a hand touched it. I sat up, listened to the white noise of the HVAC starting a cycle, the ice maker knocking once like a footstep, then nothing else but the faint plastic tick of the thermostat's relay. The house breathed. I counted to 300 and crept to the hall. The landing camera had rebooted itself. A tiny red LED blinked twice, then went black. When I played the clip the next day, the last frame held a new still shot that did not belong to any angle I had placed the camera at. The view from floor level pointing under my closed bedroom door. Light from the hallway drew a bright strip under the wood. A shadow passed across it and paused, like someone had crouched with their face at the crack and waited for my breathing to hit a certain rhythm. I tried to fix the problem with rules. People laugh at rules until they need them. I changed Wi-Fi, killed shared passwords, enabled two-factor on the lock, put the thermostat behind a pin so only my phone could push changes. When I told him I wanted to manage the utilities by myself and asked for a share the same day each month, he nodded and smiled, but the smile never reached his eyes. His responses got shorter. His questions got more precise. Friends say, "Where are you?" Toxic ones say, "Why did you take Highway 19 when 31 would have saved 3 minutes?" He knew my routes. I left early one Friday before dawn and returned just after 9 p.m. The wall frames had shifted, not crooked, flipped, every picture hung upside down. Not a single nail out of place. On my bed, a folded t-shirt I had not seen for a year lay smooth and centered like a display. I recognized the faded print on the chest and the exact bleach stain near the hem. An old road trip shirt from before I knew him well. He must have found it in the storage tub in the garage, bottom layer, taped shut. It would have taken effort to get there. A week later, I woke to the smell of cleaner. Bleach has a way of hiding in the back of your throat. The bathroom counter shone with a new polish it never had. The friend's toothbrush was gone. His running shoes were gone. His closet, stripped, but he had not taken everything. A single sticky note was tucked under my door when I opened it at 6:58 a.m. It had no writing. A greasy thumbprint sat in the center, the oval shape of a fingerprint but no whorls, as if it had been wiped. I moved out within 48 hours, a frantic sort of leaving where half your life goes in trash bags. I sent the landlord photos. He replied with one line about a previous tenant who left mid-lease and a maintenance note I am not allowed to share. That should have ended it. It did not. 2 months later, the doorbell camera captured unassigned motion at 4:12 a.m. heavy fog. The lens struggled. A bright oval floated in the frame and resolved into a human face inches away from the glass, looking through from outside. It was not him. It was me, shot from a printed photo, taped to the glass from the other side. The shot was from a lake trip we took 2 summers back. And tucked in the lower corner of the frame, a tiny sticker of a black sun with jagged rays that he used to put on his water bottle. The same sticker I would begin to notice in places that made my skin crawl. Months later, in a different city, I pressed pause on that Dashcam at 3:17 a.m. and saw the same shoulders in the rain. A second story grew out of the asphalt lines on a map. An open road idea. Bare-bones sheep travel. 2 friends in a sun-bleached Jeep needing a change. We started in Illinois and aimed for the west, a loose plan scribbled on a note app. 230 miles per day average. Smaller highways preferred. No driving after midnight. Camp when we could. The Jeep ran hot on hills. The radio had a dead speaker. The Polaroid camera clacked mechanically when it spit out shots that needed shaking even though shaking does nothing. The first few days were exactly what they were supposed to be. Diner coffee at 5:50 a.m. A pink dawn over an empty field. A picture of a cow fence we thought looked artsy because it was old. By Missouri, little patterns went wrong. My phone GPS hiccuped and pulled our blue to a dirt road we were not on. It returned to the highway, then dragged us into a loop through a small town that smelled like furnace ash and wet dog. He liked the detour. It made him grin. He asked the map app and pushed us onto county roads that narrowed until grass whispered against the Jeep doors. He watched the rear view more than the windshield. When we stopped for gas at 11:42 p.m. in northern Texas, the fluorescent canopy buzzed a headache into the air, a moth swarm of light. The clerk had a nasal voice and a stare like an audit. My friend bought a pocket knife the size of a pen and told the clerk he liked quiet places where nobody bothers to go. He said it with that certain tone people use when they want a stranger to ask a question. The clerk did not ask. He stared at me instead, then at my keys, then at the Jeep's tires. We set camp at a clearing that felt like hundreds of miles from anything. The evening light turned copper. He walked the perimeter and did not speak. I noticed my address book open on the passenger seat with pages I had not turned. I rolled my sleeping bag tight and slid into the tent. A crinkle under my palm stopped me. It was a photograph of me with my head turned mid-sentence, taken from across the fire pit. Without my knowledge, he kept taking photos. He took them in a rhythm, not like he saw a moment and wanted to capture it, but like a metronome. Every few minutes another click, even when nothing had changed. At first light, he was measuring something along the Jeep's chassis. He ran a finger along the sidewalls of the tires and looked satisfied. By noon, all 4 tires were flat, carved in long wounds. The knife sat on the hood, sunlight blinking off it. He smiled like a problem had been solved. I felt that cold, empty place in the center of my chest open wide. A day passed with us, sitting 20 feet apart in the heat. I drank warm water in quiet sips. He did not eat. He took photographs. He pinned one in a tree. It was the back of my head from moments earlier. At dusk, I started walking down the dirt road. Fast at first, then faster. He came behind me, and his breath had that ragged sound stressed animals have. We circled the same bend twice, and came back to the clearing like the road had folded. The Polaroids were gone by morning. The Jeep was black and metal by afternoon. A truck driver found me a mile down a new strip of asphalt at 3:06 p.m. and told me I looked like I had been running for more than a day. He drove me to a sheriff's office with fake wood paneling. The deputy wrote it all down and told me it would go in a file. It did. I have the case number in a notes folder titled "Do Not Delete." The package arrived a week later. No return label. A stack of photos thick enough to make a sound when set down on a table. The last shot was my bedroom window from the alley behind my apartment. The blinds were lifted in a way I knew I had not touched them. Printed at the bottom was a black sun sticker. I threw up in my sink with the water running. You tell yourself to move on. You place locks between you and the memory. Locks are only as good as the people who decide they matter. The third story lived in the glow of a smartphone screen. Rideshare and food delivery make time elastic. After midnight, a mile stretches long as a memory. The city was not dangerous. It only felt like it when your tires kiss the edges of dim parking lots and your hands pass hot bags of strangers with tired eyes. A friend from the company slid into my world slow and easy. We swapped shift tips. He sent me screenshots of high surge zones at 1:02 a.m. He knew the 3 restaurants that bagged orders fastest. He said he had a trick for picking the right corners to idle. He was right, so I kept listening. It started with a stacked order that did not make sense. 2 pickups in opposite directions, but finalized to the same delivery pinned 6 miles away at 12:47 a.m. The second bag was marked for a name I recognized as his old joke handle. When I texted the default message, "I'm outside," the app showed a gray typing bubble that never turned into text. A shadow moved behind a curtain that was not his house. The door never opened. The app marked it delivered after a 3-minute fail window. I drove back to the core. He messaged immediately and asked if the drop had been smooth. He used a phrase I had typed into a different thread, but never sent. I told myself it was coincidence. It was not. A week later, an order popped up with an address 2 blocks from my apartment at 1:37 a.m. The name looked normal. The note said "leave at door" with a smiley face and an extra sentence under it that matched the exact way I phrase apologies. We all have tiny habits in how we type. He had mine down to the comma. The building smelled like shampoo and dust. A hallway light flickered in the slow way bulbs die. I set the bag down, took the required photo with my phone at a downward angle, and froze. The live photo replayed itself in my gallery, and between the frames the photo moved in a way it never should have. It was not just parallax. The door in the image moved inward by half an inch and stopped. On the second replay, it did not move at all. The third time it did, a faint gap breathing. I backed away, slow then quicker. My phone vibrated with a new tip notification. $6. A thank you arrived from a customer and signed off with a yellow sun emoji. Not a black sun, but close enough that my hands went numb for a second. I began to find him at the edges. Watching from a gas station on a night where the sodium lights turned everything the color of old pennies. Parked behind me at a red light at 2:11 a.m. with his headlights off for 1 full block before he turned them on. Filling up at pump 6 when I was at pump 3. A coincidence 3 times is not a coincidence. I saved screenshots to a folder with a stupid name, so I would not have to see it daily. In that folder sat a map of a neighborhood in blue and gray. My route as a thin line with arrows and times. His route overlapping in a different app with small gaps that track a way that looks like someone following a respectful distance. He called it synergy once, and I let that word ruin the taste of my coffee for weeks. The fourth story belongs to a college dorm over a long weekend when the building turned into a hollow shell of itself. I stayed because work needed me in town, and because the quiet felt like a break. My friend stayed because he said he liked empty places. The RA had driven home to see family. Maintenance cut back to a phone number on the desk taped under the window. The card swipe system always made a cheerful beep. That weekend it sounded like a door clearing its throat. The dorm had 3 floors, 22 doors per corridor, emergency stairs that smelled like old paint, and cinder block walls that echoed in a way that made footsteps sound closer than they were. The first oddity was a key fob I never gave him. He opened my door when I was in the bathroom and closed it when I stepped out. He said he had knocked earlier, and I hadn't heard. There is no argument that wins against words like that, even if they're not spoken aloud. My bed felt wrong. The top-fitted sheet had rotated 90 degrees. The crease had the wrinkle pattern you only get by pulling a corner with a thumb and flipping it. A glass of water sat on my desk. The kind of thick dorm glassware nobody uses unless the dining hall supplies it. It held a fingerprint I knew was not mine from the scar across the pad. At 2:04 a.m., a hallway camera recorded someone moving slow. The night duty log the RA forgot on his desk listed no one on rotation. I watched the playback twice because the figure's pace was unnerving. He didn't stride. He pressed his feet flat, lifted them carefully, pressed them again. The camera washed out faces at night, in a reflection of the small fire extinguisher cabinet. Though one frame caught the shape just enough to turn my stomach. My own hoodie, my own posture, not a mirror, a person wearing my clothes. My laundry bag was open on the chair in my room, drawstring loosened, a hoodie missing. By Sunday, the glass of water moved to my windowsill. The condensation ring on the desk measured a perfect circle 7 centimeters across. My window faced the courtyard. I never opened it because the screen was bent and stuck. When I woke at 5:39 a.m. to a cold corner of the room, the screen had a new dent from inside out. 2 small handprints fogged the lower pane, smudged from the inside. If you've ever seen kid handprints on a window, you know the shape, the heel of the palm, and the 5 petals of fingers. These were not child-sized. They matched mine. I wiped them 3 times, and they appeared again hours later. I started sleeping with the desk chair under the handle. The next afternoon, the chair sat pushed gently aside, as if by someone who did not want to scuff the floor. When the RA returned Monday, he laughed, then stopped when he saw my face. He checked the card swipe records. My key fob pinged the door at 3:03 a.m., 3:06 a.m., and 3:12 a.m. while I was asleep 15 feet away. He told me maybe I rolled over on the fob. I wore gym shorts with no pockets. He let me see the log out of pity. The entries cross-referenced with maintenance fob ID I did not recognize. The office assistant said the ID looked like one assigned to a student employee 2 years ago. I know who that was. He posted a picture this spring holding a key ring and joking about the perks of helping out behind the desk. The 5th story worked under fluorescent light. After the mall closed, the store changed shape. A place that bustles at 6 p.m. turns cavernous and strange by 11. The ceiling grid buzzed like bees trapped behind sheet metal. The security gate rattled down, and the echo lived for a full second in the space. In that echo, the friend moved quietly. He had taken a seasonal job and stayed. He asked for my shifts and swapped them so we matched. He carried boxes for other people and earned thank yous. He learned the alarm panel code without being told because he watched fingers move. The locking checklist ran on paper and muscle memory. Count cash, pull drawers, check dressing rooms, scan the back hallway, close the fire door, set the alarm. On a Thursday, the back exit reported one open/close event at 10:41 p.m. after we had already secured it. The panel printed a little slip of paper that I stuck in my pocket. I walked the hallway with the red exit signs burning shapes into my eyes. The storage room smelled like cardboard. A box sat open with tissue paper curled like tongues. My friend asked if I could take the trash to the compactor. He had a way of asking, while already placing the bag in my hand. When I returned, the room looked the same and didn't. The ladder stood 2 rungs higher than before. A sticker on the rung showed a tiny black sun. I had never noticed it before. Maybe it had always been there. He took the closing keys and tested the cylinder on the front gate, turning it twice in a way the manager never did. He set the alarm and walked me out. The alarm beat counted down from 60 seconds. At 8, the back hallway motion sensor tripped. A chirp cut the countdown and forced a reset. He said it was a spider. I said it was probably the HVAC. We both knew those answers sounded like blankets pulled over a shape you do not want to see. The chirp came again. We left anyway. Saturday, I worked a solo shift late and did the closing alone. He texted at 12:07 a.m. asking if I had remembered to latch the stockroom. I wrote back yes and added a period to sound confident. At 12:23 a.m., while I stacked hangers at the counter, the sound of breathing came from the back. It was not a trick my brain invented. It was a low, steady vibration of air moving in a human chest. The stockroom door was closed. The air moved anyway. The panel did not show motion. I walked the hall with my phone in one hand and a heavy flashlight in the other. The flashlight weight became ridiculous after 30 seconds, like it had grown. The wooden plank we kept for friendly deliveries lay against the wall. There were fresh scuffs on both ends. They were too clean to be old. When I turned back toward the sales floor, the glitter of the mannequin's glass eyes caught me and made me step backward. Their heads faced a slightly different way than they had earlier. I could not prove it. The alarm armed with a happy chirp at 12:51 a.m. like nothing unusual had happened. The 6th-story waited in trees. A forest trail at dusk looks welcoming until it doesn't. A friend from work liked to hike. Said it cleared his head. He suggested a loop trail with a small pond at the halfway mark. It measured 3.8 miles on the sign. We parked at 6:13 p.m., 2 cars, 10 spaces apart. The lot had a camera on a pole that looked fake. He packed light. I carried more than I needed. We started down the trail and the forest welcomed us with the sounds every forest has. High insect whine, leaf chatter, a bird punctuating the monotony every so often, our steps sinking. He asked about my week and then started finishing my sentences. He had a talent for anticipating people. That is a gift until it's a weapon. At the pond, he went quiet. I bent to retie a shoe and my phone vibrated. A calendar reminder chimed for a meeting I did not have. When I clicked into the alert, the location field contained coordinates identical to the trailhead, all zeros in the seconds. I had not put it there. While I stared at it, a small drone sound approached. The mosquito whir of a hobby quadcopter. I scanned the tree line and caught points of faint light that looked like eye shine. My brain misfiled it as an animal. The sound passed once overhead and then died. He suggested we take a different branch of the loop that looked narrower and less used. The map on the trail kiosk showed that branch did not exist. On the way back, we lost the blazes for a few minutes. My heart beat in a tight band. We found the trail again because it is easier to locate what you have already walked. When we reached the parking lot, both cars sat where we left them. The camera on the pole faced the tree line now. I sat with the door open and my legs on the asphalt to force my breathing to slow. My headlights on the trees revealed reflective circles 15 feet in. They looked like little eyes. I lifted the phone camera to snap a picture. The flash popped and the screen caught a face where I was not aiming, a shape of a person engraved behind my driver door, reflected in the rear quarter panel. He was halfway between where I sat and my taillight. The hair on my arms went cold. I pivoted and the open dark held nothing. When I looked back at the photo, the face had softened into a pattern in the brush that did not look like a face anymore. I checked my car's tire pressure monitoring system readout out of habit before starting. Right rear, 27 psi. Left rear, 26 psi. The front tires, 32 psi. New values I had not seen before. I drove anyway. The next morning, both rear tires were low enough to shine the warning light. A garage tech found 2 slow leaks, clean punctures. He showed me the thin slits like a signature. The invoice is still in my glove box with the tech's messy handwriting and a 2-digit number circled. A friend at work mentioned a sticker. He peels onto gear We've been somewhere, a jagged black sun with uneven rays. The drone I heard on the trail had the same sticker on its battery cover. When he showed me a video later of a different hike, a different person, the same pond. The 7th story stretched between an elevator and a parking garage. City concrete follows patterns that make you feel safe. Bright light, security mirrors in corners, lines painted thick. An old gym sat on the 6th floor of a deck where you spiral up and then back out. A friend there spotted weights, shouted sets, live loud. He liked to slap shoulders and crank people up. He asked about where I parked every time and called it a safety check. He joked about letting air out of tires to test my patience. Jokes like that carry too much detail. One night, an elevator glitch held me between floors for 47 minutes. The panel lit both 3 and 4 and made that helpless ding sound every few seconds. My phone battery read 18%. Signal bars, 1. I kept the screen dim and recorded a short video for proof. You think about proof in places like that. When the doors finally inched apart, it was not at a floor but a concrete wall with a seam. A maintenance tech slid a metal tool in and turned something, and the doors fully opened toward the deck. He wore reflective tape and an orange shirt and looked bored. He said it happens when the sensor reads heat differentials wrong. He did not look at me when he said it. I reached my car, a small sedan with dust-taking fingerprints. My driver's side mirror had a new angle, as if a hand had squeezed it hard. A receipt sat under my wiper, not a ticket. A blank paper from a thermal printer, like a gas pump prints when someone cancels before it finishes. It held a still warm smell. I sat inside, locked the doors, and checked the Dashcam knockoff I had stuck on my dash. The last clip from 8:22 p.m. showed a person crouching by my rear bumper. The camera's night vision washed faces white. The person wore a hoodie with the hood up. A sticker like a jagged sun glowed faintly on the back of his phone case as he leaned down. He stood and pressed a forehead to my driver's window for 3 beats, then walked out of frame. I played it again and noticed something I hate that I missed. The car parked 2 spaces over had a rear quarter panel reflection that captured the crouch from a different angle. The stance belonged to my gym friend. I recognized the way he set his feet wide, the tilt of his head, the small habit of tapping a thumb against his phone before pocketing it. I replaced all 4 valve caps with locking ones and pretended small hardware could hold back a person with enough time. When my left rear tire went flat on 40, MPH rode the next Thursday, the shop found a neatly clipped valve stem core. I saved the core in a plastic bag because the counter guy told me I should always keep what hurts me. So I remember, he meant it as life advice. It landed as a weight. The 8th story sits last because it pulled all the others tight, like a drawstring. An old rental cabin near a state border promised quiet. A friend from childhood reappeared the week I signed the short rental and said we should catch up. He remembered the name of my childhood dog and the street where I learned to ride a bike. He remembered too much. The cabin smelled like cedar and something metallic under it. The porch swing creaked in a way that carried through the frame. The kitchen had a chipped mug like my grandmother's. I told myself it was a coincidence stacked across years. The air felt wrong by the second night. He arrived without being invited and glided through the rooms like he already knew the floor squeak at the hallway bend. He touched the mantel with the softness of someone petting a sleeping animal. He said he had kept an eye on the place for the owner. He did not say it out loud. The sink had a small scratch that matched the scratch I had seen in a house 2 homes back when a different friend had leaned in to tell me he could fix my life if I let him. People are patterns more than they are names. I checked the attic even though the lease said not to. Under a quilt box sat a shallow trunk full of paper. Old envelopes with neat cursive. Some in a different hand. Sharper ink. Notes of gratitude for watching over the house. Dates that ran from the 50s to 2 months ago. That could be a sweet tradition. It did not feel sweet. It felt like a ledger. The last envelope had nothing inside but a sticker. Black sun. The same jagged rays. For months, a shape had moved county to county through the doorway of my life wearing different faces. He had a roommate's timing, a traveler's curiosity, a co-worker's helpfulness, a hiker's calm, a gym friend's bark. He had all of them. Night breath wrong in that cabin. The thermostat screen flickered once and died. My phone battery fell from 62% to 29% in 12 minutes, then stabilized as if a hand moved off it. The porch camera pushed a false motion alert exactly when the wind stopped. At 2:14 a.m., the map app marked me at a grocery store 10 miles away, even though I stood in my kitchen with my hand on the counter to prove I existed. My watch counted my heart rate wrong, dipping to 38, then skipping to 122, and settling at 67 like nothing happened. I set rules like I always do. I put a chair under the back doorknob. I stacked pans on top of the chair to create a clatter if anyone touched it. I locked the bedroom door and slid a rubber wedge under it. I kept a flashlight and a metal water bottle for weight and noise. I staged my keys by the window and placed my shoes under the bed, pointing outward for speed. When fear takes over, your brain writes lists. A text vibrated at the table at 3:03 a.m. No content, just a photo. It loaded in bands, as if the network had to work to bring it to me. It was taken from very low, floor-level angle, aimed under my bedroom door at the same kind of gap as the old landing camera shot. The shot was current. The light strip under the door was a warm LED yellow, the exact color of the bulb I had left in the hallway. Shadows moved across the strip like slow surf. A cuff of denim looked like my own. A second cuff looked like someone kneeling. The clock at the top of the phone read 3:03 a.m., and the photo's metadata said 3:03 a.m. minus 2 seconds. Whoever sent it took it while I held my phone in my hand. I scrubbed backwards across months and saw the Black Sun sticker echoed on a drone battery, a water bottle in the break room, a phone case at the gym, a keychain glint in a dorm hallway reflection, a cardboard box sticker peeled and stuck to a ladder rung in a dark stockroom, a photo corner on my doorbell camera. Not a symbol, a breadcrumb trail. I realized late that one person had never left. He had simply moved sideways. He had borrowed faces and roles until I stopped remembering who was who. At 3:07 a.m., the cabin went silent. HVAC off. Fridge hummed dead. A silence that felt like a plummet in an elevator. The battery backup on the router chirped once and gave up. In that kind of quiet, you can hear dust move. A second photo arrived. My own face from years ago, sleep soft and younger, taped to the inside of the bedroom window facing in. A third notification slid over it. One of those new safety alerts the phone sends when an unknown Bluetooth tracker is moving with you. It said device detected near you and gave a map with a pulsing blue circle inside my house outline. Someone had tucked the tracker into something I had not found. I stepped to the door and held my breath. The wedge bit the floor. I smelled cold air at the bottom of the door. A soft tap sounded on the wood. Not a knock. A code like a child's game. Tap, tap, pause, tap, long pause, tap. I felt my heart do that misfire skip that makes you swallow hard. That rhythm belonged to a different decade. The way we signaled 3 houses down to sneak out to watch movies in the basement. There is a special kind of fear reserved for the exact sound you thought only your family knew. I moved into survival mode because feelings do not change physics. I slid the dresser noiselessly against the door, bottom corner first, so the legs did not screech. I cut my flashlight with my hand to reduce splash and walked along the floor for a slice of light. I checked the window latch with 3 fingers. I unlocked it and pushed up an inch, then set it back down so it would look untouched. I set the heaviest book I owned on the sill to lift with the window and clatter when it rose. I grabbed the metal water bottle and a jacket. I scanned for the AirTag beep and could not find it. My phone showed a distance of 3 meters, then 2, then 1, then jumped to 4. It behaved like someone moving it just when I got close. My battery read 18%. I toggled airplane mode on and off to cut the map updates and save a little charge. I crawled under bed because sometimes the smallest space buys the biggest time. I lay on my back and held the flashlight against my chest to hide the glow. The smell like old paper. A soft click sounded in the closet, not the snick of a handle. The tidy sound of a latch pulling back from the inside. The closet door opened a finger's width. A shadow settled there, the way a person balances before they step. My phone vibrated once against my ribs with a push email. Property manager notification. Sent at 3:11 a.m. Subject line entry attempt detected from owner's keypad. The body of the message blank. The owner's keypad code should not have opened my door. It did not matter. The closet breathed again. There was another click, then a soft scrape across like someone steadying a shoe. Far away, a pair of headlights washed across the window as a car turned to the end of the dirt road. This should have made me feel better. It did not. The soft tap on the door repeated, and at the exact same second, the AirTag alert ticked down to 0 meters and the flashlight in my hand dimmed by a fraction, as if something had stepped between me and the only thing I had to trust. The final thing my phone showed before the screen went dark was a new push from a camera account I do not own. Live view started. Label cabin bedroom 1. Viewer count 1. I pushed the phone under the mattress to muffle any future chime and steadied my breathing in sets of 5 in, 5 out, like drills from a class I took after first house. In the quiet gap between breaths, a slow exhale sounded inches from the floor. It did not come from me. A thumbnail-worthy moment snapped into my head the way nightmares do. The stair landing still from months back, the window handprint from the dorm, the eye shine at the tree line, and now a door seen from floor level with shadows passing a rhythm that matched a heartbeat. My own. I inched a hand toward the bed frame slat, where I had taped a flathead screwdriver. I kept tools within reach after the garage guy showed me an old lock on a display and taught me how small and dumb some locks are. The plan took shape in small squares. Pry the rear corner of the window, slide out onto the porch roof, drop to gravel on the kitchen side, sprint the 0.2 miles down the drive in sock feet, cut left toward the highway lights, flag the first pair of headlights, even if it is a stranger, show the last photo and the AirTag alert, and let my face do the rest. The plan might work. The plan might be the last smart thing I ever chose. The closet eased open another inch. A sliver of darker dark met the room's dark. The chair under the back door moved 1 millimeter on tile. It made a sound no one would notice at noon, but a shot at 3 a.m. The porch swing creaked once, an outside answer to an inside whisper. Gravel whispered under a tire in the driveway, like someone was rolling in neutral. The live view pinged again from under the mattress, with a tiny buzz at my ribs felt more than my ears. I would have given anything for a police siren right then. Instead, my phone buzzed a final time, a notification from a neighbor 2 parcels down who had my number because the owner gave it to them after the lease. The message preview said the sheriff is at the wrong house. The closet door stopped moving, like whoever waited inside was listening too. The screwdriver slid in my hand with sweat. I waited for the sound of steps in the hall, for the porch swing to announce a body's weight, for a voice I knew too well to press through wood. None of it came. Only a slow scrape from inside the closet, the shape of shoes turning toward me under the bed, a new sound I had not heard in that cabin yet. A camera shutter, mechanical, close enough to touch. The next second belonged to something breaking, either the window or the plan or me. Part 2 is already trying to handle. In the week morning after, I would file the report with the county, attach the Dashcam frame with the rain silhouette, forward an email from the property manager with a misfired keypad log, upload the tire receipts and the dorm swipe printout to a folder labeled for a detective. A neighbor would text me a picture of a black sun sticker peeled halfway off a mailbox at the end of the road. A moderator would lock a thread on a local subreddit when users argued about whether the drone lights in the photo were real. A manager would resend a shift schedule from months earlier with a note about a key audit I never saw. Right now, the only thing that matters is the distance from the bed frame to the window latch, the weight of the screwdriver, the angle of the dark under the closet door, and the fact that somewhere a sheriff's cruiser is parked in front of the wrong place while the cabin breathes like a living animal that already knows the ending. The screwdriver lay cool against my palm, and the bedroom air felt thin, like the room had used up its oxygen deciding who it belonged to. The closet gap held steady at one slow, careful finger's width. Dust floated in the flashlight, spilled like snow that had forgotten how to fall. I slid the dresser another inch with the heel of my shoe, keeping the legs off the floor so the wood wouldn't scream. The rubber door wedged bit deeper. The window latch was within reach if I got the angle right. The book on the sill, a fat hardcover that could pass for brick in the dark, waited to be the crash I needed. The phone under the mattress hummed once with a muted insect buzz. Unknown device near you flashed earlier like a dare. The little pulsing map had circled my bed 3 times before the screen blacked out. If the tracker was in the room, and not just near it, I had to make it move before I did. The click came again from the closet. Not louder, closer, than a sound I recognized because it's ordinary everywhere else and terrible in a small room. Fabric whispering along wood. A sleeve. A knee. Something sliding over the inner door edge with care. A fast breath tried to climb up my throat. I pushed it down. Plan first. Panic later. I pressed a flashlight under my ribs to smother the spill and wormed toward the window with my shoulders flat. The screwdriver tip found the sash groove. I lifted slowly until the latch tongue, released with a felt, not heard, slip. The book wobble on the sill as the frame rose a finger's width. I eased it back down to disguise the change, fingers shaking so hard my nails knocked wood. The tracker's little chirp finally bled to the mattress at the lowest volume the phone could push. A mechanical tick every couple of seconds, like a patient metronome. I followed the sound by feel, not the nightstand, not the backpack, not the jacket pocket. It was in the jacket, but not the pocket, the seam. I found with my fingertips a harder stitch into the hem like a cheap security tag, the size of a coin. I peeled fabric, lifted the thin plastic, and it came free with a reluctant pop. The chirp sharpened when it touched air. I shoved it under the bed edge and flicked it across the floor with a fingertip toward the far wall. It tapped the baseboard with a cheerful little note, like it had reached home. The closet stopped breathing. I lifted the window an inch. The book started to slide. 2 inches. 3. The book trembled on smooth paint. I took a breath I couldn't afford and let the book slip. The crash was honest and ugly. With slapped wood, glass bumped glass. The room made the sound into a big thing with a long echo. The closet moved. Not a step, a preparation. Whoever had patience in that dark box changed posture in one liquid knot. I lifted the window the last 6 inches in one motion, rolled my body into the rectangle, and scraped my hip bone on the sill hard enough to see white. The porch roof shingles were cold and gritty under my palms. My right foot cleared with a jerk. My left laces caught and held. Hands, not mine, moved in the room. The closet door whisper widened. The bedroom door shoved once against the wedge and dresser, and earned nothing for the effort but a dull thunk. The window slid down against the way the book lodged in the track, a seesaw of inching gravity. I pushed off of my elbows and belly, scraped onto the shingles, and felt the soft rush of night air like a tank opening. A hand brushed my sock as the window closed another inch. Not a grab, a pass. The way someone checks distance before committing. I scissored my leg free and rolled. The flashlight thumped in my shirt and went dark like it chose a side. The porch roof edge sat 8 feet up over gritty gravel. The yard smelled like cold cedar and a penny in your mouth. I dropped, landed bad, and lightning shot up my right ankle. Not a break, a threat. I forced weight through it. In the room behind me, the book wedged the window just enough to turn the next sound into something I won't forget. Fingernails or a tool tip finding the sash track and testing slow to avoid noise. I hugged the siding, kept low, and rounded the corner toward the kitchen window. The chair under the back door had moved a full inch since I wedged it, leaving a clean rectangle of dust that told on both of us. Through the glass, the hall held the kind of gray that swallows edges. The closet door in the bedroom was either fully open or gone to shadow. It didn't matter which. The driveway gravel took my socks like a file, small stones grinding underfoot. 50 feet to the car, maybe 60. It felt like a mile with my ankle turning each step into an argument. The night made the cabin into a box in a field. The nearest sodium lot light was a soft orange fog in the distance. The car sat in the drive, front pointed toward the road for once, because I had listened to a podcast about smart exits 2 weeks ago. Both rear tires kissed the ground with a wrong softness. The right rear bulged at the asphalt. My key fob chimed a sad little chirp as I approached. The hazard lights blinked once in a way I had not asked for. The trunk sat unlatched by an inch, lid resting on a latch tongue like a mouth breathing. I lifted it with 2 fingers and let the struts take the weight. The inside smelled like cardboard and rubber. Neat stacks of photographs lined the carpet like someone had staged a yard sale. Not Polaroids. Laser prints on cheap paper with borders trimmed too close. My dorm window handprints. The forest trail I shine. The dashcam rain silhouette. The security gate ladder rung with the sticker. The store hallway with the fire extinguisher cabinet, reflecting a hoodie that fit me too well. All in order. All clean. No smudges. The last page held now, not then. The photo of a floor-level view under my bedroom door with the warm LED strip and the shadow of 2 cuffs. In the corner, the time stamp kept the secret time, 3:03 a.m. minus 2 seconds. The same time the alert hit my phone. I lowered the trunk with fingers at the edge to avoid prints and let it kiss the latch without locking. I didn't need evidence to tell me what I already knew. I still took 1 page and slid it flat under my shirt. Something about having it against skin felt like insurance. The sodium fog way down the road turned into a pair of moving headlights. A car turned into the wrong drive by neighbor count. The last text I saw flashed in my head like a bad billboard. The sheriff at the wrong house. No one gets that right by accident twice. The porch swing on the cabin creaked 1 slow arc behind me, the chain telling me exactly how much weight had settled into it. Not seated, leaned. The hand on the chain outweighed me. The AirTag chirp came back faint from the jacket I had tossed under the shrubs. Not the same pitch. A second one. The device near you alert earlier had not been the jacket tag at all. It had been a pair. Redundancy buys control. I moved along the side yard a crouch, kept low past the propane tank, then slipped into the tree lean, where the bare path the power company cut for lines made a ribbon through brush. My ankle argued with every dip and root. I turned the phone on for 2 seconds to open the downloaded map and set a pin at the highway, 0.8 miles south by the scale, terrain lines flattening out near a drainage ditch. 2 seconds became 4, while the screen fought for a GPS fix with no data. I killed it again to save what felt like a tiny lifeline, even if I knew it would not last. I traveled by the sound of road more than sight. The woods held 1,000 little noises that my brain wanted to turn into a person. Moths ricocheted off my shoulders. The smell of damp leaves and old iron filled my mouth. A rabbit broke left and spun my heart like a dial. Halfway to the row of trees startled me not because of the tree, but what wrapped it. A trail camera strap held a small gray box at chest height. It looked like one of the cheap models sold in big box stores with a lens no bigger than a shirt button and an infrared grid like a toy. Close enough. I recognized the brand logo and the little ragged black sun sticker torn and half peeled at the corner. That mark was not a brand. It was a handshake. I palmed the box. It unlocked with a tab and a stubborn hinge. The SD card sat inside like a tongue. I took it and slid the empty latch shut, so the camera would keep acting like it worked. The card disappeared into the same hidden spot inside my belt where I had kept the spare key when I lived in the dorm. Past and present shaking hands around my waist. The drone sound returned above the tree line, faint and curious. A single green status LED flickered 200 feet out, hovering. I pressed my back to bark and closed my lungs. The little were moved like a fly that had learned my shape. Through the branches beyond, the road finally glowed. A delivery van drifted along at 28 and a 40. The way people drive when looking for a number painted on a mailbox. I stepped out and waved once, not big, not sloppy, just a clear line in the dark. The van slowed and rolled onto the shoulder. The interior light came on. The silhouette behind the wheel was just a person with a face centered in the glow. That should have made it easy. It didn't. I closed the 10 feet and saw it. A small air freshener tag hung from the rear view, cut into a sun shape with uneven rays, black foam against the windshield. The edges were worn, like fingers had worried through traffic lights all over the county. The driver leaned over, and I saw the cheap dash cam suction cup to glass, recording a continuous loop of the road. My own image floated in the tiny screen, bleached white like a ghost in a cheap mirror. I stepped back hard enough to make gravel sound like glass. The driver held their hands up like a witness to a slow accident. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. The van rolled back onto the road with the cautious acceleration of someone leaving a situation that might not want them. It vanished behind a bend I could not see. My hands shook so badly I could feel the bones buzz. The sheriff's cruiser lights finally painted the wrong driveway in red and blue a field away. They pulsed steady and calm. The siren was off. The porch lights came on at the neighbors. Their door opened, and somebody stepped out in a robe with one hand up. I wanted the clean relief of walking straight into those lights. The line between me and that safety passed through a black rectangle of trees filled with layered noise, and one person who moved without sound. I kept to the drainage ditch parallel to the road, ankle going from protest to numb. My socks took water and gravel. My breath drew cold at the edges like I was sipping the dark itself. Each house number painted on a black mailbox meant one house closer to people with bright kitchens and poor sleep. Each box looked the same. One had a peeling sticker. One had none. One had that sun-shaped clawed as if by a thumbnail. The neighbor 2 parcels down had a porch camera that chirped when it sensed motion even at midnight. I'd heard it on dog walks. I cut through their side yard and stepped onto the porch boards. They flexed like lungs. The motion light snapped on, blinding white. My eyes watered. The camera clicked on, and a chime sounded inside like a tiny bell. Footsteps moved on the other side of the door. The deadbolt spun and paused. A voice I had heard once at a barbecue pushed through the door, softened by wood and distance. The words were ordinary and frantic. "The sheriff is on our road. Come in." The chain slid. The door cracked. I made it 2 steps into a laundry tile mudroom where rubber boots lined a wall, and a Labrador shed enough hair to make a pillow. A sound came from behind us that made my neck turn hot. Not heavy. Small. A quiet, precise tap on the neighbor's back door, the one that leads the yard. Tap, tap, pause, tap, long pause, tap. A rhythm that belonged to kids on bikes a lifetime ago and basements with horror movie nights and borrowed blankets. The neighbor's face froze. Their eyes cut to me. Recognition. And fear made a brief handshake there too. The back door lock rattled under a key that did not belong. The keypad beeped an entry code attempt that landed wrong, like a hand hitting the wrong piano keys on purpose. For beeps. A fifth. A pause long enough to count to 3. Then 4 more, new pattern. The neighbor's house gave its opinion in a long beep that meant failure. At the same second, my phone under my shirt kicked awake against my ribs for 1 violent second and flashed a lock screen I didn't recognize. A push notification from an account called Sunroom showed a live view starting from Mudroom. Viewer count 2. The neighbor grabbed a cordless phone from a wall cradle with muscle memory and dialed a number that lives in your DNA. Metal clicked in the back door lock again. Softer this time, like a practice run becoming a show. The Labrador crept forward and made a low sound that had nothing to do with theater. The porch camera chimed again from outside in a new tone I had not heard here before. Motion at driveway. The screen inside the mudroom flashed a small rectangle. A pair of headlights faced the house from the lane. A sheriff's cruiser silhouette sat there with light bar dark and engine purring. A second, smaller shape move in the shadow of that car's open trunk the way a person moves when hiding in plain sight. A slow shift of air brushed the back of my neck. Not a draft. A door in a hallway somewhere opening into pressure. The live view on my phone skittered back to the lock screen and died. The neighbor lifted the chain to swing the inner door shut and bolt it. The chain caught on the hook and rattled back like a toy. The metal had been shaved narrower. It would not seat. That detail ate a second we didn't have. The back door from the yard clicked with the quiet grace of good key finding home on the 3rd try. I planted my feet on tile, found the nearest heavy thing, an old cast iron boot scraper in the corner, and brought it up chest high. My ankle stopped belonging to me and became an object I asked for service from. The Labrador slid sideways with me like we had rehearsed. The neighbor set their shoulder against the inner door like a brace. The back door knob turned a 1/4 inch. Stopped. Turned again. Stopped. The door itself breathed as the weather strip gave up. A thin line of yard light traced the seam. A shadow moved across it, not elongated, compact, knees bent, the shape of someone who has practiced. I glanced at the mudroom camera tablet because I needed friction with reality. The timestamp read 3:39 a.m. The feed showed us in grainy black and white like we had already become a replay. A small red dot blinked on the corner of the screen to tell me someone was watching with us. Two someones. It changed to three. Through the kitchen arch, past the mudroom, the neighbor's front room lit up blue and red as the cruiser at the end of the drive finally turned on its bar. A shape stepped from behind the trunk into the color wash and looked small because distance shrinks everything. A hand lifted in a neighborly gesture. The figure in the mudroom doorway responded with silence and patience. The split second where you know the camera is about to catch something you don't want to see stretched like gum. The boot scraper weight crept toward the edge of my grip. The doorknob turned the last quarter inch and settled. I shifted weight toward the hinge, counted down from 3, because numbers are cheaper than hope, and moved to strike. On 2, the house power died. Not just the mudroom light. Everything. The tablet went black. The fridge hum in the kitchen died mid-breath. The motion light outside shut off, taking the yard back to dark. Even the sheriff's bar out on the lane snapped to no color, plunging the front room into plain night. The lock on the back door snicked from the other side in that small, definitive way that means both parts of the plan just met and shook hands. Later, a report number would populate in a county email, and a deputy's body cam would show a dark house from a safe distance, and a neighbor's voice explaining a chain that suddenly wouldn't catch, and a key that fit a door it shouldn't. A maintenance person would invoice a new deadbolt with a notation about saw marks on the old strike plate. A friend across town would send me a screenshot of a local thread arguing about whether the county cruiser in a driveway at 3:40 a.m. had mismatched plates because someone zoomed and counted bolts wrong. But that would be hours from now. Right now, in a mudroom lined with rubber boots and a Labrador's breath, the back door hinge drifted inward a hair, and a thin blade of colder air slid across my shins like a warning. The next sound would be soft, the kind of sound a camera microphone barely catches. The kind of sound you only recognize if you're laying under a bed listening to someone exhale through their teeth inches from your face. It came once, steady and controlled. My hands tightened on iron. The neighbor's shoulder pressed harder into wood. The Labrador's nails clicked twice on tile and then went still. From the front of the house, through the wrong doorway, a single knock answered in the exact rhythm from my childhood. Tap, tap, pause, tap, long pause, tap. 2 doors, 2 rhythms, one house breathing between them. I stepped forward into the hinge, the scraper rising, the dark not caring, while my phone against my ribs woke with one last half-life twitch and showed a new lock screen image for a heartbeat before it died again. The view from inside a car, center console camera, both of us small in a rectangle under the words recording saved. The latch finished its thought, and something we had not invited finally stepped in.